Welcome to the e-learning module, Leadership and AI. I, Dr. Pooja Singh Negi, Assistant Professor from Management Education and Research Institute, under the Unit 4 of Leadership for the Future Challenges. We will discuss the role of leadership in terms of diversity and inclusion. Let's have a look of this video. Therefore, the learning objectives of this module are: the first one, how to build a culture that values diversity, equity and inclusion. The next objective, what is the role of AI to build the culture that actually values diversity, equity and inclusion. Starting discussion and all the topic, let's understand what is diversity, equity and inclusion. Diversity, equity and inclusion are three closely linked values held by many organizations that are working to be supportive of different groups of individuals, including people of different races, ethnicities, religions, abilities, genders, and sexual orientations. Many researchers have proved time to time that companies benefit from variety in many forms, including racial, ethnic, ability, gender, sexual orientation, neurodiversity and more. To put it simply, diversity, equality and inclusion are three principles that many modern businesses aim to uphold in order to better serve individuals from diverse backgrounds. So, diversity, equity and inclusions in business and society are the primary topic of this essay and today's e-module learning, with biodiversity and other related ideas serving as a significant extensions. So basically, when it comes to responding to the challenges, attracting top talents and satisfying the demands of varied customer bases, diverse, equitable and inclusive companies really shine. In light of DEI, that is diversity, equity and inclusion, businesses are thinking about ways to assist workers more effectively. Many companies have made great efforts in recent years to include diversity, equity and inclusion in their employment practices and policies. So now the question is, what are the differences between diversity, equity and inclusion? So people frequently use the term diversity, equity and inclusion into one category because of how closely related they are and basically how their combined effects are most noticeable. So when we using the term DEI and strategy, several firms use similar terms like belonging. However, it is easy to misunderstand any of these terms as well. So it's critical to understand what each of these words means and what it implies. So basically, a diverse workforce is one that includes a wide range of individuals. Embracing diversity in the workplace can be seen in various ways. A population's gender diversity can be defined as a percentage of its members who actually identify as males, women or non-binary. Does a group consist primarily of members from the same generation or does it span multiple generations? So the answer is, what is the ethnic diversity? Does a group's membership reflect a wide range of backgrounds or do they all follow to similar cultural norms and traditions? Are the hidden or quite obvious viewpoints of people with disabilities taken into consideration when discussing neurodiversity and the physical ability? While these are some of the most typical instances, there is a great deal of the things that we need to understand in terms of the diversity. So let's take one example. In an interview with McKinsey regarding debiasing the corporation, Ricard Thaler discusses this. Diversity is all the rage these days, remarks. we usually consider that in terms of diversity, in terms of the gender and ethnicity. So everything you mention is going to be very crucial. On the other hand, having a wide range of perspective is crucial. So basically, when we talk about the fair treatment of all individuals is what we mean when we talk about equity. This means that people's, basically identities, should not dictate their opportunities or the results actually they experience the time they are doing their job. So there is some questions, but again crucial differences that we need to understand. What is the difference between equality and equity? So basically, equity considers each person's individual circumstances and adjusts treatment according to ensure that everyone is treated fairly. In contrast to equality, which implies that everyone should be treated the same. By taking the example of a senior partner and personal expert at McKinsey, it provides his perspective on the consequences of equity in talent sourcing in an edition of the McKinsey Talks personal podcast about the inclusive workplaces. So what we need to remember, the word equal and equitable are not same thing. Let us pretend we said all interns are created equal and nothing is paid to them. Those who can manage to spend a whole summer unpaid probably already have it pretty good. To what extent do firms welcome and support all the employees in an organization and also allowing them to make valuable contributions? This is what we mean when we talk about the workplace inclusion. So basically, to retain talent and tap into the full potential of the diverse workforce, companies that are serious about the hiring the diverse workforce must also consider to create an inclusive atmosphere where everyone feels their opinion that actually matters. So according to the McKinsey Partner and Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Specialist that actually appeared as an episode of the McKinsey Talks Talent podcast about the inclusive workplaces, especially at the executive level when we talk about their members of the LGBTQs. So community are grossly underrepresented in the workforce. Therefore, we can say that many people encounter microaggressions and feel like only at work. This can manifest in a variety of ways, including an inability to freely express oneself or to urge to correct the preconceptions about one's private life. How to create a culture of diversity, equity and inclusion is the establishment of DEI culture. That's something you are interested in this e-learning module, how it is associated with the organization. Any company would do well to make DEI a core value. So basically a culture that actually values the diversity, equity and inclusion can be fostered by examining many tactics which need to be discussed in today's e-learning modules. Like we can talk, a diverse workforce is a more productive and innovative because it not only draws on many experiences and viewpoints but also at the same time in terms of the member, which in terms actually promotes a culture of fairness and respect for all the people. So we can say that establishing a culture that actually and genuinely diverse, equitable and inclusive does not happen over a time. Rather, it calls for continuous efforts and dedication from every level of the organizations. So when we are going to define diversity, equity and inclusion, what are the precisely points we need to consider? So let's first take what is diversity. When we are going to refer diversity, diversity refers to the practice of welcoming and valuing each and every individuals for who they are, regardless of their gender, color, equity, religion, or any kind of orientations, or it could be possible they are handicapped or aged. So we need to be very considerate about all these terms. In an inclusive society, individuals from all walks of life with all kinds of quits will feel more at home. This is all about the diversity. Coming to the term, what is equity? When workers are treated fairly in the workplace, they are given the chance and resources they need to based on their own needs. So in an equitable culture, everyone feels that they have a fair shot at succeeding and advancing. So when we talk about the equity and equality, it's all about clear in this e-learning module. Now come to the next point, that is the inclusion. What is inclusion? Making sure everyone from co-workers to supervisors feels heard and appreciated is what we mean when we talk about the inclusion. So in an inclusive environment, individuals are more likely to speak out and be themselves. So can you tell me how equity differs from equality and how we are going to differentiate both the terms from each other? So when discussing the establishment of a just and equitable society, the terms equity and equality are connected but have different terms and meanings. So in order to create policies and practices that effectively promote the social justice, it becomes essential to understand the distinction between the two notions. The concept of treating everyone equally without exception is what we mean when we talk about the equality. So we can suppose that everyone on an equal footing has an identical requirements, but it is the cornerstone of justice and fairness. So that is to say, according to the one of the egalitarian principle, everyone deserves the same treatment because we all are beginning from the same place. However, equity means to treat people differently according to their needs so that justice and fairness can be achieved. So when we talk about the equity, we are basically acknowledging that everyone in an organization has a unique set of circumstances that actually influence their ability to succeed. That's why leaders need to be very considerate about it. Its goal is to remove all these obstacles by giving the people the tools they need to succeed. So there are many examples going around us. So following example will help you to clarify the distinction between the equality and equity. Picture a classroom full of the students and all taking the same standardized test to identify their level of understanding. As you have found, no student's requirements or circumstances would be considered in that particular society. So all students would take the same test within the same allotted time period. However, in a fair society, when we talk about the student's requirement would be taken into the account while allocating the resources and their belonging. So, students with disabilities can be accommodated in a variety of ways, such as by providing a larger font size and additional time to finish the test, or by offering translation or interpretation services to that particular students whose first language is not English. So, basically we can summarize that equity aims to guarantee that all individuals have the equal opportunities, access to all the resources, whereas when we talk about the equality, focus on treating everyone equal. So this will allow each person to reach his or her maximum potential. So that's why when we prioritize inclusion, equity and diversity, what do we gain? How the organization is going to be benefited with these terms. So increased employee engagement, better creativity, problem solving, better customer interactions and enhanced reputations are just a few of the benefits we can avail to companies that can prioritize diversity, equity and inclusion. So first point, we can say that we can enhance the participation from workers. Workers are more invested in their jobs when they believe their company supports diversity, equity and inclusion, as well as employees are more likely to be satisfied with their work and stay with the company if they feel appreciated and respected. Now coming to the second point, that DEI also help to enhance ability to think creatively and solve different problems. Greater creative problem solving potential is one benefit of employing a diverse staff. So basically, improved problem solving outcomes are often the results of hearing other points of view, which can reveal hidden biases and introduce the different novel ideas not from the employees but the other employees that are not participating. The third point is it can enhance the customer services when consumer perceive themselves reflected in a company's employee and offering. They are more inclined to feel at ease and appreciated. So by paying close attention to diversity, equity and inclusion, businesses can learn more about their varied wants and requirements of their clients and allowing them to create the product and services that actually satisfy them and what actually they are having in their mind. The fourth point is like we can develop a reputational boost in addition to being more appealing to workers and consumers. Companies that place an emphasis on DEI are perceived as being more socially responsible. So basically improve credibility, more devoted customers and more brands are possible towards their possible outcomes. Now the next point is the fifth, that is the better financial results. Putting diversity, equity and inclusion first can pay dividends for the different businesses. Diverse team perform better financially and make more and more money according to their studies. So company with a strong reputation for social responsibility also have a better chance of attracting the kind of investors to whom we are looking to put their money and where their principles that actually related and are. So if we want to build an inclusive, equitable and diverse culture, what are the most important things to do? So by listening to and learning from everyone in the company, we can build a inclusive, diverse and equitable culture. So basically all employees, regardless of their identity or origin, should feel comfortable and welcome in the workplace. Coming to the end about the discussion and it is important to educate and train staff of the diversity, equity and inclusiveness issues, promote open and honest communication and provide venues for employees to voice their opinions and as well as experiences. So first what we can do, explain to your company what diversity, equity and inclusion entails. So determining what diversity, equity and inclusion means for your organization is the first establishing a DEI culture. In terms of the diversity, equity and inclusion, this necessitates drafting an ambiguous declaration of the purpose. So basically the specific objectives and difficulties encountered by the organization should be reflected in this statement. So which should have been crafted with the participation from every level of the organization. So let's discuss. It is essential that leaders spearhead all the matters pertaining to the DEI. However, as we will see later on, culture is based on the leadership behavior. Just saying the correct things isn't enough. Hiring someone to manage diversity, equity and inclusion isn't enough, and it's not even the purview of the human resource. So basically to ensure that all employees are cognizant of the company's dedication to DEI, it is important to disseminate the statement extensively after it is finalized. Second is to incorporate inclusiveness, equity and diversity into your core beliefs. The culture of your company and the level of involvement of its employee are both supported by its core principles. A company's values articulate its principles, so their purpose is to basically spell out the expectation of all the parties that actually involved, including either they are customers or patients, service users and the staffs. What matters most to leaders should be reflected in their values, and an organization's core principle out to mirror the priorities of its top brass. On the flip side, the organization ideals should be evident in every leader who is need to be chosen. This occurs because leaders tend to promote their own values and discourage others from doing the same. Diversity, equity, and inclusion must thus be championed, rewarded, and reinforced by each and every one of your organization's leader. This is the only way to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion are deeply ingrained in your company's culture and operations. Thirdly, recruit and keep a diverse team. A diverse workforce, both in terms of the applicants and employee, is a crucial component of any DEI culture. This includes seeking out and employing people from a variety of backgrounds and then making sure that they all have they need to succeed once they are on the job. So, opportunity for professional growth, mentoring, relationships, and fostering an environment where all members feel welcome and valued are all the part of this. So, the fourth is give people a chance to advance in their careers. One way to keep a diverse staff is to provide them chances to advance in their careers. This involves making sure that everyone has the access to development and opportunities that are customized to their specific requirements and the points of view. Now, the next term is the mentoring the programs and leadership development workshops and chances for the staff to actually tackle more complex tasks are all examples of what this might include. So, step 5 we can discuss about the track development. Lastly, it is critical to track advancement in establishing a DEI culture and ensure that leaders are held responsible for meeting their objectives. After discussing all these points, it is necessary to examine and analyze what is diversity, equality and inclusion statistics on the regular basis and to use this data to guide choices and activities to find out how much your DEI program are ingraining in the company culture. So, DEI surveys are a fantastic tool to use. Additionally, it entails holding leaders to responsible for attaining DEI related goals and objectives that have been clearly defined. So, in order to foster a DEI culture, what steps may leaders take? We go into future depth in our essay on the topic of how to alter an organization culture in 5 steps. But changing an organization culture is not easy for everyone. So, leadership actions actually define cultures. Your company's culture is basically defined by the words and the deeds of its executives as well as their methods of praise and criticism and focus and neglects. So, as a group, we all take cues about what matters most for our leaders and try to emulate their actions. Leaders at all levels must remain committed to hold if they want to see their organization thrive in an environment that values diversity, equity and inclusion. So, basically to help manager fosters a DEI culture, we have outlined some concrete actions they can take. First, you can create a plan for diversity, equity and inclusion. The company's plan objectives and strategies for fostering diversity, equity and inclusion that should be laid out in a DEI strategies that manager should draft. So, basically all personnel should be informed of this approach and it should be evaluated frequently to check if the organization is making any progress. So, after deciding all these things, basically we need to foster an environment of openness and responsibility. Managers should need to decide about their DEI initiative and ensure that their teams are not just part or responsible for reaching their standardized DEI objectives. So, objectives, progress and results reporting are all part of these organization and that actually fosters an inclusive work environment. Leaders should make an effort to find out, like they can interview and hire people from all walks of life to decide and standardize the DEI. One way to achieve this goal is to teach hiring managers on diversity, equity and inclusion best practices. Another is to increase the number of recruitment channels available to attract a more diverse pool of candidates. So, basically promoting and welcoming work environment in their own department. Here, managers should foster an inclusive work environment for each individual in an organization, one in which every worker is treated with dignity and respect. So basically, creating rules and process that support diversity, equity and inclusion can be one way to achieve this goal, along with encouraging open communication and offering chances for input and participation. Next, we can educate employees on diversity, equity and inclusion, where the manager should regularly educate their staff on DEI concepts and how they can help to foster an inclusive work environment. That could be inculcated by the top level. So basically, when we talk about the cultural competency, inclusive leadership and training on unconscious prejudice, all are example of what may fall under this category. So let's taking one effective strategy for getting managers to act more DEI friendly is to use 360-degree feedback. The most effective method for building managers is to administer 360-degree feedback surveys that include questions that actually tailor to diversity, equity and inclusion. So these surveys gives manager invaluable insights into how their peers see them. So all these policies and procedures need to be updated time to time. Managers should check the company's policies and procedures for biases and inclusion on regular basis. As of part of this effort, HR practices like as performance reviews, pay scales and other regulations might be examined for signs of the prejudice. Managers may foster an environment that promote diversity, equity and inclusion by following steps to establish DEI culture. This has the potential to boost morale and productivity in the workplace, which in turn can improve creativity and problem solving, customer service and company's image and bottom line results. Now the question is, what are the essential components of DEI strategy? While talking about this strategy, outlining a company's plan, objectives and actions to promote the diversity, equity and inclusion in the workplace is known as the diversity, equity and inclusion strategy. So basically, DEI plan should incorporate the following elements so that our DEI plan can get successful in the future. One could be planned actions aligning with the company purpose and principles. The DEI plan should have specific quantifiable targets. So achievable, relevant and detailed goals are essential for any organization. The next second point could be dedication from the executives. Senior leadership should make their commitment to promoting diversity, equity and inclusion in the workplace obvious in the DEI strategy. All employees should be informed of this commitment and the company's rules, practices and the culture that should reflect in it. The third could be the staff participation, regular communication, feedback mechanism and the chances for participation all are part of an effective DEI plan that will engage employees in DEI initiatives. So these are the certain things that we have discussed right now. The next could be the recruiting and employment. There should be a plan to increase the diversity in the employment process as the part of DEI strategies. Some example of this include training, hiring managers on DEI best practices, increasing the number of recruitment channels to attract more diverse pool of applicants and checking the job description for bias and inclusion. The seventh could be the KPIs and presentations, a reporting mechanism to share the result with the stakeholders and employee should be the part of the DEI strategy, and matrices should be used and placed to track the progress towards the DEI different targets. So employee survey are a great tool for tracking the results of DEI programs. Either make a DEI survey or add questions about the DEI to your existing employee experience survey, where we can initiate or enhance the DEI experiences as well in an organization. What kind of actions might managers take that could be seen as a biased or discriminatory? So executive need to be very self-aware when it comes to their prejudice and do everything they can keep them from influencing their different decisions in an organization. So basically, in order to identify instances of bias or discrimination, managers should be alert to the following behavior. The one is the generalizations, regardless of an employee gender, color, age, religion, orientations, managers should not generalize about them. Basically, what we have to remember, assumptions about which workers are more suited to which jobs are biases against worker because of their perceived group membership are example of this. Furthermore, prejudice can extend beyond legally protected traits like color, ethnicities, etc. Managers should know how to help women going through the menopause and how to manage employees, those who are neurodivergent. Second is the insufficient variety. It is the manager's responsibility to be cognizant of the team's diversity and to take measures to avoid unintentionally dismissing competent applicants from the underrepresented groups. So basically, job ads and descriptions can be reviewed while we are taking care of inclusive, and recruiting channels can be expanded to reach a wider pool of candidates, and hiring the managers can train on the diversity, equity and inclusion best practices. The third point is the small scale. Managers ought to be cognizant that their words and actions might have an effect on staff members from those who are coming from the various cultural backgrounds. A few examples of microaggressions we can take and that can be avoided while making such assumptions about an employees, from what background they are belonging, from what culture they are belonging, using offensive languages or making jokes or excluding them from the chances of or conversations. So basically, unconscious prejudice, it is important for managers to recognize their own implicit biases and work to reduce their influence. Making recruiting and promotion decisions based on objective criteria, educating managers on unconscious bias, and encouraging them to seek feedback on their decision-making process are all ways basically to achieve this goal. The next point is the inadequate modifications when employees have disabilities or other personal situations that may necessitate adaptation to their workplace and the different jobs they are doing. Managers should be very mindful of their requirements. When we talk about creating a culture that actually supports employees with the various needs and providing appropriate accommodations like flexible work hours or specialist equipments are the two ways to achieve this. So now let's discuss how artificial intelligence is changing the way we work and disrupt whole sectors, and it is widely acknowledged as one of the most revolutionary technologies ever. So artificial intelligence is quickly becoming an essential component of employment related activities and choices as organizations seek to increase efficiency and production through various means. Beyond these practical advantages, through AI also provide the chances to tackle some of the longest standing obstacles, where we learn how to build an inclusive and supportive workplace for our employees. A growing body of evidences suggests that artificial intelligence can play a significant and varied role in helping the business become more diverse, equitable and inclusive. So basically, artificial intelligence assists firms in reaching their diversity and inclusion goals by increasing the variety of recruiting process, identifying and reducing the unconscious biases, and boosting career development and opportunity equity. Now, let's discuss why most worker well-being decreased. It decreased or stayed the same, with the 59% of the world's workforce participating in the quiet quitting, according to the Deloitte 2024 Global Human Capital Trend Study. In response, numerous companies are being proactive in their approach to this problem by creating a work environment that prioritizes that well-being of its employees through the utilization of new AI technologies, tools that gather data from workers, including sentiment analysis, are basically increasing. Incorporating AI to the measure morale and identify problem areas that may be solved with focused efforts. In addition, starting to use wearables and mobile apps to help their employees improve their health and wellness through individualized recommendations for things like meditation, classes, and health monitoring. While these digital solutions are great, they shouldn't be used in isolation from other policies, practices, and leadership initiatives aimed at making the workplace a better place for everyone. Despite these efforts, we can see that many companies are still using antiquated measures to determine how satisfied and productive their employees are. So, when it comes to today's complicated workplaces where demands and expectations of employees are always changing, and these more conventional methods actually frequently fall short. So, for instance, the wider influence of work on workers' happiness, creativity, and long-term value creation cannot be adequately captured by productivity matrices and that rely on hours spent on tasks finished. Only 3% of respondents said their company is very good at capturing the value that employees produce according to the same Deloitte survey. So, here is where cutting edge tech and AI really shine. By utilizing AI, firms may enhance their data collection and analysis process, allowing them to deeper into the employee satisfaction and performance, what is possible with surface level measures. So, organization can gain real time insights into the employee sentiments regarding their different work environment with AI technique. Like they can go for the sentiment analysis. The sentiment analysis basically enable them to proactively solve the different issues. Another step towards a more welcoming and inclusive workplace is the use of AI powered technologies like chatbots and predictive analytics to better meet the unique requirement of each employee. So basically, recognizing that technology isn't thing that is critical to going through. There needs to be a larger plan that incorporates a supportive policies, leadership practices, and a culture that actually values the well-being of people in order for AI to give meaningful tools to promote the well-being. In order for businesses to succeed in the future and have a beneficial impact on society at large, it will necessary to design workplace where human-centric methods and technology complement each other and one another. So basically the question is how AI can help to eliminate the discrimination in the workplace, like unfair treatment, bias in recruiting and promotions, salary gaps, and other form of workplace discrimination are still serious problems of today's organization. More unbiased data-driven decision making is possible with the help of AI, which can contribute to solving these problems. So basically by examining the massive data sets, AI system can identify the discriminatory recruiting, promotion, and wage practices. This enables the firm to rectify the situation, treat all employees fairly. For instance, AI has the ability to uncover the racial and ethnic wage disparities as well as discriminatory recruitment practices. So basically, artificial intelligence driven recruiting tools can help to reduce the unconscious bias by placing more emphasis on candidates' credentials and less on subjective criteria. Through the use of natural language processing, that is the NLP, AI may generate job postings that appeal to a more varied applicant pool by identifying applications and deleting personally identifiable information, that is also known as PII, that could influence the hiring choices. Despite these benefits, business should keep an eye on AI systems to make sure that they don't unintentionally hurt someone, groups, or reinforce biases. Organization can assess workforce diversity and identity areas that need development with the help of AI diversity analytics. Artificial intelligence can help inform DE&I initiative by evaluating staff demographics, AI for the prevention of harassment and violence in the workplace. The repercussions of workplace violence and harassment, both on victims and their employees, can be treated as the major problems. Though it many uses, AI can help with both the prevention and resolution of such occurrences. When it comes to the workplace communication and interaction, system powered by AI can keep an eye out for any indications of possible violences or harassments. As an example, AI has the capability to analyze various type of communication, including chat logs, emails, and video recording in order to identify the instances of inappropriate behavior. This allow HR or other relevant parties to promptly address and resolve such incidents. Another AI tool, sentiment analysis, lets business read the employee surveys, comments, and social media posts to get a feel for how everyone is feeling on the job. This preventive method is useful for spotting the origin of violent or harassing behavior before they go out to hand to hand. So let's conclude. In conclusion, finally it takes dedicated and hard work from everyone in the company to build a culture that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. Organizations can establish a culture that appreciate and respect the viewpoints and experiences of every person by establishing what diversity, equity, and inclusion means, them recruiting and maintaining a diverse workforce, encouraging a climate of inclusion, offering chances for professional development, tracking results, and upholding the leaders responsible. So that's all for today's e-learning. Thank you and happy learning.